complaints here. Looking forward to an exciting race once again.
All right, well, we should be getting here started here shortly. Like Ricky said, I am ALttP, and I'm joined by Ari today. So this is the tournament for Link of the Past all dungeons. It's the restricted major glitches rule set. Basically, what that means is like if you've seen any of this game, like this game is ridiculously broken. So we actually have like different levels of glitches that we can use. So most of like the really broken stuff, it turns out if you just allow all that stuff, the game just kind of turns into a glitch fest. So we kind of have like this intermediate glitch level where we still kind of like encourage you like to actually play through the game and stuff. And most of the stuff that's allowed is pretty much anything on the overworld is allowed. So it allows us to just traverse the map a lot quicker. That's where most of the time save in this category comes from. And then we also allow certain things in the underworld and dungeons and stuff. We don't allow like exploration glitch, which allows you to go anywhere. If you've seen like just the regular any percent of the major glitches category, it's like a 2-minute category. It's a really powerful glitch. There's also some weird stuff like what we call like transition glitches that allow you to do a bunch of really wacky stuff. Stuff like that's also banned. So when new stuff comes up, it's a little hard for us to figure out where like glitches will go. But basically, as long as you're not like just completely skipping just like major dungeons or anything like that, then it will generally be allowed in this rule set. So we're getting started here. Today we got Doomtap and Osse. Doomtap he's got a I think 110.51 right now. Something like I think it's like 8th place on the leaderboard now. It's hard to keep track. People keep PBing. The leaderboard keeps changing all over the place. And then on the other side we have Osse, who's got a 112.39 PB. He's really improved his PB quickly in this game. So this should be a pretty good match. Should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Doomtap. I always thought of him as mostly like an all dungeons and no major glitches player, and recently I was just looking at all his PBs, and it turns out he's like doing a lot of categories, also the basic 80% RMG, all that stuff, and he's been putting up really good times. And he's not been around for that long. Like his first recorded run on Speedrun.com is like from September 2018, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I first followed him when I was like hunting for the sub 90, and like he had like I saw he was streaming, he had like a 129. Like, oh, this is a good person to like, I was trying to like look at people like closer to my skill level to see how I can like improve. And like I cut him very briefly, and then he just leveled up and like shot straight up to like just one of the best in the game.
Yeah. And then Osse, I mainly knew him from the render scene where I was matched up against him in the tourney, and yeah, he was already pretty good back then. And then he started focusing more on speedruns, and again, he's been leveling up like crazy. Like he brought down his PB in this category by a few minutes over the past few months.
Yeah, Osse definitely plays a lot of randomizer and everything. I think it's still the thing he concentrates on, but he definitely comes and like actually learns the speed runs as a way to improve that. But he's got like just like a lot of raw skill. So when he actually like learns all the strats for the rooms, like he didn't even have an RMG PB as of like a couple months ago, and he got a sub 90 in like 5 runs, which is just nuts.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see how much of divergence there will be in the coming few splits. There are a lot of like choke points if we go for like RTA attempts, and yeah, this can be massive time losses in races. But depending on what happens, this race might be a lot closer than the PB show.
Yeah, something like a. Like if you look at like a 10:51 versus 12:39, it's still like a minute and 40 apart. But like the thing with this category is there's a lot of like soft locks and stuff that can happen. So it's not stuff we want to see happen, but it's pretty easy to see upsets, especially kind of like at like this skill level where like I said, both these guys are really good. Like to get a 110.51, like you've got to be playing at the top of your game. It's really hard to be like playing consistently at that level. So it's you know, if you're someone who's got like that kind of skill level, it's not much has to go wrong for you to be putting up times in like the 12 range. And so as long as Osse like plays well, if he can play near his PB, nothing even spectacularly wrong has to go for Doomtap. He just needs to be just not perfect today, which in this game happens a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, Escape. There's probably I don't know. Do we have anything interesting to talk about in Escape? Should we already talk about what might be coming up after Escape? Like maybe start of Eastern or not already?
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about the so like Escape is just kind of a little boring, so we don't talk about it very much. Just kind of straightforward. If you haven't seen too many vanilla speedruns of this, but we have to. One of the kind of issues with this game is like you really need the boots, and the boots are behind Eastern Palace. So pretty much every category of this game, except for like the full-on major glitch categories, pretty much starts with Escape and Eastern being exactly the same. Oh, what was I gonna say? Sorry. Oh, like so, like in this one, we actually could do Eastern first. There's an overall glitch we can do to get over there. The problem is if we don't go and talk to the uncle, you'll have that Zelda text. She'll keep trying to talk to you telepathically the entire time. So it ends up actually being slower, which is kind of unfortunate because it'd be really cool. If it wasn't for that, we would actually be doing Eastern first and all these like restricted major glitches categories, and then you can come back and do Escape with boots. But that text just takes so long; it ends up not being worth it. But like we can talk a little bit about like the sort of like glitches that we will be seeing in here. A lot of the glitches that you'll see, there's like some of them are teleports. So we'll see like players be like clipping into like walls. And if you're at a certain pixel and you hold like down right or down left into the wall, the game's like internal like math gets a little confused because like the SNES wants to work on like 4x4 tiles, and anything on a diagonal kind of cuts through that. So when they program the game, they kind of use some like shortcuts to sort of make that work. And unfortunately, it goes, at least from their perspective, goes a little wrong where you can actually teleport like up like 4 or 5 tiles, teleport down 4 or 5 tiles. So we abuse that to basically get to a lot of places that we should be able to go to. You can also just kind of like walk through corners with if you have the spin speed state. So we'll be using that a bunch. And then one of the big things in this category, kind of an innovation that was it's like little over 2 years old now, is that we can actually use bombs to clip us into walls. Before that, we had to do these really annoying sword buffers to get through the walls, and it was really those bomb clips that made this category a lot more accessible to everyone because those sword clips are very difficult. And speaking of, we're going to be seeing our first sword clip here. This is actually a much easier sword clip. It's called Citrus Clip, named after Yuzuhara, who discovered this, which means citrus in Japanese. Basically, we're just doing this. It saves like up to 8 seconds if you can do it very well. And both of them had very good citruses. But
Doomtap was insane.
Yeah, they were both pretty nuts. Doomtap was using the boom to get in there. But that's the other cool thing about this category is there's a lot of like that one isn't really doesn't really need to be done for you to do this route. There's really only like 4 or like 3 or 4 glitches that really need to be done that really allows you to kind of like do this route in general, and then the rest of them are just pure time saves. So if you're just learning it, you can just not learn a bunch of them for the first time through. Just learn the really important ones, and then you can kind of come back and just keep adding in little time savers as you go along. But like again, both these guys are both really good. They're going to pretty much be doing everything. There's 1 or 2 things we may not see. We keep finding like just like really little time saves or like little extra glitches that we can do that kind of save stuff in like that 5-second ballpark that we really hadn't even considered before. As people are really starting to push this category hard, so it's a pretty exciting time for this category.
Yeah, only really over the past few months has stuff really been optimized, especially since Zelda came back and he started grinding really hard and showed us what was really possible time-wise. Like first we thought, maybe low 110s, that'll be good at the end of the tourney, and now we already have a 109, so...
109.34, yeah, it's nuts. Like, we started this tournament, Josh had the world record at 110.53. He's now like the second lowest or second highest 110. The only one who's behind him is Zero Rush, and he's only behind him because Zero got 3 blue balls in his. So
Yeah.
we're two more 110s away from the top 10 being 110. And even as recently as a year ago, I had a 112.45, and that was 6th place. So just this category has really been pushed hard in the last few months.
Yeah, it's really been ridiculous.
But anyway, the rest of Eastern Palace is again pretty much standard. If you've ever seen any speedrun of this, the one thing that's nice about this category is every single bit of money that we need in this category, and we only need Zora flippers and $10 for the tempered sword. So all of that is just gotten from chests, so we don't need to farm any money here. So we don't need to kill any popos, worry about drops or anything. It pretty much guarantees that you're going to get the red drop in here because you don't actually need it.
Oh, it's a small issue with the red eyebrow there. That was a really good ace otherwise.
Yeah, these 2 rooms back to back are actually 2 of the toughest rooms in the game, and they're in the second. Anyways, so this next split, we're actually going to be going to Pod next. Normally, it's the 4th dungeon. It's in the Dark World. The game expects you to beat Aga. To get to the Dark World, have the Master Sword. All that's really slow, and Pod has the hammer, which is really needed for a lot of stuff. So we want to get that as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we don't have a way of getting up to Death Mountain casually, at least, which we would need. We need to get the mirror and all that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do is a trick called DMA, or Death Mountain Ascent. This is another. There was another way of doing it. And again, Yuzu came in and showed us a much better way that made it's faster and it's a lot safer and more consistent. So basically, we're going to be doing a spin speed to clip into a wall, and then we're going to what's going to happen is we're going to transition the camera past where the natural transition point is, and it's actually going to cause the camera to kind of dislocate from where Link's position is. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that stuff in this run overall, where Link actually is and where the camera is aren't tightly coupled in this game. So you'll be seeing us like walk around screens that are not actually the screens, but we know where we are, so we just have to have like a couple like memorized inputs. So we're gonna be using that to skip the big block that we would need gloves for to get up to Death Mountain. When we get up to Death Mountain, we need the mirror from the old man. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the underworld. And the underworld in this game is entirely on one map. And we can abuse that by basically transitioning through underworld layers. And we're going to be able to get into Pod from Death Mountain. So it's a lot of stuff really quickly right here. You can see them doing DMA right here. This is the newer version of it. It's faster and better than the old way, which was hell.
Yeah, because you were partly on the Death Mountain screen where there's dead rocks and boulders falling from the sky, and here there's just nothing.
Yeah, you had to deal with dead rocks on a broken camera, and you had to do like a blind dash into one, and you just had to hope, and it was really bad. And like, so we're gonna be fighting Helma at the end of this split, which is we're only gonna be doing it with 5 hearts and Fighter Sword, and it's a really difficult fight because Helma does 2 hearts of damage, so there's only 2 hits you can take. So preserving your health here is incredibly important. So any like elimination of RNG is really good. And speaking of that, there's actually another clip coming up that it's called Kiki Yeet. We're gonna kind of clip through this wall over here, and they're gonna make this like big long diagonal jump, and you're gonna see this broken camera effect again. And then we're just gonna kind of navigate on this broken camera down to a cave that we need to get to. It's gonna be that underworld I was talking about before, and then we're gonna bomb clip into Pod. So you can see Doomtap doing it here now. He's going to put this bomb down, and then he'll dash into it. This will put us on a specific pixel, and then the way we actually this is actually a downwards teleport that I was describing before. The bomb puts us on the pixel we need to be, and then we can activate the teleport, and we transition screens into Pod.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble here. Second try, he at least gets into the wall. Let's hope he gets the buffer here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so we're in Pod now, but we're in a thing we call cave state, because the game assigns whatever dungeon you are in based upon the entrance you entered. And since we entered through a game, the game still thinks we're in a cave. And one of the interesting, like, caves do not have keys at all in this game, so there's no assigned value to the key. And basically, the game only checks to see if you have 0 keys. Since we don't, we have an unassigned value. It says, okay, you can open the door and I'm going to decrease your key count by 1. So we can use that to open doors in pod. The reason we don't go through the entire dungeon in Cave State is because, again, this is the all dungeons category, so we have to complete all the dungeons and collect all the prizes. The only way we can get Helma's prize is by entering pod properly. So we can just go out the front there. Normally you'd be stuck there because we never actually paid Kiki his money, which is why those tricks are called Kiki skip and Kiki eat. And then we can just come back and we just reload pod, and then we're in the dungeon proper. So opening that front door just gives us a nice little bit of routing efficiency for the rest of the dungeon.
Yeah, it saves us a mirror. Just a little bit of time. So what's coming up is actually, in the grand scheme of this category, pretty innocuous. We have a hammer jump coming here, which is like a double, X pixel perfect or Y pixel perfect.
Y pixel perfect.
Yeah,
it's lenient on the X.
Yeah. It's a bump, jump, and a clip combined, I suppose. There we go. So Doomtap with a small health lead in here, but we do have a couple of tricky rooms coming up, including mimics and turtles and Helmasaur himself. Yeah, we really want to be on full hearts, despite like it not giving us beams like it would in another category. We do want to be on full health coming into the boss fight.
Yeah, it is possible to skip these hearts. But the problem is, again, this is such a dangerous fight that most people will end up picking these hearts up. There is another safety that neither of these runners did. You can actually get silver arrows early. It takes about 20. It's effectively a 20-second time loss over the entire run. You actually gain a lot of time back. But again, both these guys are, just some of the best at this game, so they're just going for it here. But this is definitely one of the big places that can cause like an upset in one of these races.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Doom Spot has been really good so far. So we got Helma right here. First phase takes 17 hammer hits to the face, then his mask breaks off. And in the second phase, he will move faster, and his movement combined with potential fireballs like really create a dangerous situation. Because he'll always do his tail swipe in the second phase, and it'll give you very little room for movement, but he went through it super nicely.
Yeah, he got if you can get a tail swipe without a fireball in the second phase, it's pretty easy to come up and just throw 3 hammers down on him. So he had a little trouble early, but he got that no fireball tail swipe, was able to finish. Osse is doing the same thing on his screen. Ooh.
Oh my.
Jeez.
Okay. Oh, we got there. We got there.
Lord. Yeah, so you can, like in NMG, you have the Master Sword, and a Master Sword spin equals one hammer hit. So the standard way to do that fight is with the sword out. You have a sword spin charged up, and you just release it so you do 3, and then you release it for the 4th one. The Fighter Sword only does half a hammer hit effectively, so you need to do 2. So you don't see as many people going for spins. You can kind of use the spin as like a defensive move. If he's Helma's kind of coming at you, you can release your spin, you'll bounce away from him. And then if you get another hammer hit in, you can just finish him off with the other spin. But both went just for 4 hammer. If you can get 4 hammer hits, it's the fastest way to do it. But as we can see, is slightly risky.
Yeah, it's so tight because you have so little time after the mask breaking before he moves again. Like, you need to have 17 really clean hammer hits to break the mask, and then you need to put in 4 quick hammer hits into his actual phase. And doing that before he actually starts moving for his third cycle is like nigh impossible.
Yeah, both these players coming in with sub 19 pods, which is you can definitely get a 112 with that kind of time. So pod is there's just so much. It's such a difficult segment and so early on. It's a big reset point in this category. So it's good that both of them got through it cleanly. Doom's got a little bit of a lead now. He's got about a 30-second lead. But like after that pod split, things become a little bit easier. So Osse should be able to maintain kind of like this gap for the next couple splits.
Yeah, for sure. Like aside from like deaths, there aren't really a lot of big time losses. The biggest would probably be like failing a bomb jump or falling to Moldorm, and then some small stuff on Thieves Down, but like no 2 minutes time losses.
There is the potential hard luck on the DMD, but that's pretty rare to get. You need a to fat finger it pretty bad.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so to get up to here again, we actually could get up here normally, but it's just faster to clip up there. Again, that's another one of those clips that's just it doesn't need to be done, but it's just faster. We're actually going to see that clip in particular 3 times in the entire run. I think they both did the fast version of it.
No, also did the spin speed.
Oh, he did. Okay. But anyways, the fast version that Doom did, where he goes to the right hand side and just kind of dash buffers through. It's like a little over a second faster. I think it's like almost like 2 seconds faster if you do it really well. And since you're going to be doing that 3 times in the run, if you can get good at that, it actually adds up to being a pretty significant time save overall.
Yeah, it does become like a pretty big time loss if you fail the first try and the boulders start raining down on you. But
yeah, that's part of the issue is if you're fast enough, you can always beat the boulders. But the second you flub it even a little bit, then it can become pretty nasty.
So Doom picks up the trash from this dungeon in Moon Pearl, which will help us actually stay normal in the Dark World. Otherwise, we would be a bunny, and that would make it pretty hard to get into some dungeons.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, normally the Moon Pearl is this pretty required item. We could beat this category without picking up that Moon Pearl. In fact, there was a version of low AD that was Moon Pearl-less. But the problem is just like doing all the stuff you would need to do to set up, like getting into all the dungeons would just take a very long time. And this Moon Pearl's not, it's right here. So it's the Moon Pearl in this category isn't something you need. It's something that makes you faster, which I find kind of amusing.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, picking up the Moon Pearl is official speed tech.
We encourage it. Yeah, so again, really solid Tower of Terror from Doomtap side. A little bit of time on SPD right there.
Yeah, and Doom's going to be doing one of the the DMA and like the Kiki skip are 2 really important tricks. Like I said, like the main tricks in this category. This is another one, the DMD. We really have no way of getting to kind of the Dark World proper here, the Thieves Town area and like all that. Normally you would need you'd either need to beat Aga and then like get the hammer, then you can come over here, or you would need to or have the hammer and the gloves, and then you can access Dark World through a couple portals around. We don't have the gloves right now. We completely skip them. So the only way to get to the Dark World is to come down here. And again, we just kind of like use spin speed. We just clip through the wall, and then we get what's called a funny auto walk thing, which is its official name. Scudge said it at one point, and everyone just thought the name was funny, so it stuck. But basically, again, Link's kind of like halfway through our transition, and when we try to tap down, the game just puts us in this weird state, and we walk for some reason, and that just puts us in this area, and we can go straight into Thieves Town. Once we get into Thieves becomes pretty straightforward, like you would see in a non-glitches category. The one issue is there's a big block in the basement that, again, we don't have the gloves, so we can't get through it. Fortunately, the developers gave us a second way around it. I don't know why, but it was very nice of them, because the route would be very different if they didn't just kind of let us walk around that block. So we need to do something a little different in that basement. We'll see it here shortly. Besides that, this is a pretty normal dungeon. The only things that are different is you have 1 heart less than you would if you pick up Sank Heart. It's kind of like Sankless, effectively. And you only have the fighter sword, so things that would die normally, you just kind of are knocking out of the way. But killing things in general is slow. So as long as they're out of our way, we're happy with that. There's only like 1 or 2 little movement changes you need to make to account for that. And then when we get to blind takes the same amount of damage no matter your sword level. So the fight is completely standard.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the sword hitbox is a little bit smaller, so you need
it's
to be a little bit tighter on your movement. But otherwise,
it is a little a little shorter, so you have to adjust a little bit. I actually I played this category so much that I went back to NMG. I had to adjust to the Master Sword.
But yeah, it's pretty great that we get to skip the gloves entirely because the mids are in this dungeon, and it would actually be a downgrade if we pick up the power gloves later in the game. So that's a pretty funny feature.
Yeah, a little low to bring this up, but if you're familiar with the randomizer, you'll see like things like progressive gloves and stuff. That's not actually how it works in the vanilla game. That was a kind of a thing they did to make the randomizer better. The way that the vanilla game works is if you pick up whatever item you pick up, you get. So if you have the mitts and you pick up the gloves, you now have the gloves. And of course, you've already picked up the mitts. There's no way to re-upgrade. So we definitely want to avoid doing that. It actually wouldn't kill the run. We can finish the run with those gloves. But it would just be a huge time loss to go and pick them up. Like we're trying to save frames. To walk over like 3 different screens and open a chest would just be horrifically long. So yeah. I haven't seen that mistake yet. I'm waiting for someone to just completely space and NMG and do that, and just pray they know the ice palette.
Yeah, because the only thing we actually use the mids for is to get the tempered sword, I feel.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. Otherwise, we only really use the portals on Death Mountain and the one near Swamp Palace. So
Doom having a little bit of issue with this boss fight. Oh no! I was being a little cavalier because I kind of thought Doom was going to have it, but that's unfortunate. Okay, so you want to talk about Fake Dark World?
Right. So, this has to do with Aga, right? We haven't killed Aga yet, so the game never thinks that if we die, that we're actually in the Dark World. So it puts us back in like what it thinks is the Light World.
Yeah, it sets our game state flag to the Light World. If you like save and quit from this game, like if you're in Dark World, it'll put you in Dark World. If you're in Light World, it'll put you to the Light World. So I think it has something. So it's checking your flag to where to respawn you. And since we don't set the Light World flag because Aga's not dead, that's what sets it. It leaves us here because it's like, oh, you died in this dungeon, so you got to go back to the beginning of the dungeon. But I'm gonna set your game state to Light World. And
yeah.
So it leads to a bunch of nasty effects. There's a bunch of different things. The main thing is, Doom almost died again. So Doom is going to come out. Actually, I'm going to remind him to mirror.
Yeah, it's already being put in the chat.
Yeah, there's backseating and everything allowed in this tournament. It's fine. We don't want anything to go that badly. But if he didn't mirror and he transitioned the screen here, what's going to happen is he's actually going to end up in the Light World version of that screen. So if he mirrors, you can mirror like in Dark World, and it basically will mirror you back to Dark World proper. For some reason, it's kind of weird. Hopefully he remembers to do it, and we'll see it here shortly. So it's just it's a little extra time loss. There's other bad things that can happen if you do it in Ice Palace or Misery Mire. The prize from the boss actually won't drop, and it's actually a hard lock. The game won't let you save and quit or anything. It looks like he's not remembering.
Well, he can do it after this chest, because
hopefully.
that saves you a menu. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, if he doesn't, he'll do it right here because of the menu.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Okay.
We're in there.
Yeah, so you see he mirrored, and then he ended up back in Dark World.
What's weird to me is that like the first screen is still Dark World in a way. Like that is still the Dark World version of the screen.
Yeah. If anyone was really keenly paying attention, when Doom was back in Thieves Town, if you looked at the pots, they were actually pots and not the Dark World skulls. There's also a bunch of other weird effects. Like if you go, the crickets upstairs actually turn into, they have the damage class and health of the rats, because that's the White World version of that enemy. Anyways, we're getting, Skullwoods ends up being pretty normal. Skullwoods isn't very easily broken. So this split is completely normal as it would be to NMG. The only thing is we never picked up the book. The only reason we need the book is because we need ether to get into Mire. So it's this kind of annoying little fetch quest that we haven't been able to break around. So it's just, this is the closest time we're to the book. So we just mirror and get it. What Osse did is a newer version of it called a frog door, which is because there's a frog and there's a door that we mirror in. Basically, you just mirror right in the door, and then when you come back out, you can actually, if you hit A on the right frame, you'll just talk to the frog without having to pick up the rock. So it saves a good bit of time. You actually don't get the quick warps, which is what Doomtap did. There's a couple free setups to get both of the quick warps, but there's extra walking involved in that. So it turns out the extra walking is slow enough that just being able to mirror directly in place and not have to pick up an extra rock is the fastest.
Yeah. We also found an opportune moment to actually upgrade our sword right here, which we need to do in order to beat the game, because we either need the Master Sword or better in order to be able to damage Ganon at the end of the game. And it really just speeds up so much. So,
yeah. Not only is the Temper Sword the fastest to get, it is also does a good bit of damage. The difference in damage class from Master Sword to Tempered is pretty significant. So it speeds up a lot of bosses, a lot of different rooms. Like in NMG, we pick up the Tempered Sword just because it speeds us up so much. So even for some reason getting the Master Sword was like doable in this, we'd probably still end up upgrading to Tempered. The dwarfs are kind of funny. They don't actually they don't check what sword you have. They just check to see if you have Tempered. And Fighter Sword is not Tempered, so they go, okay, here's your Tempered Sword. If you can get to them without any sword, they'll upgrade your nothing into Tempered Sword, which makes me question what they're actually tempering.
yeah.
And like it's really weird it works like that, because we mentioned it briefly that they could have gotten silvers before pod. And if you know how you get silvers, you go to the Fat Fairy at the end, which normally you have to beat both Mire and Ice Palace to do, but we have a way of getting in there. She also gives you the gold sword, so you might be wondering, well, why don't you just get the gold sword with silvers? Even though dwarfs only check to see if you have not tempered, the Fat Fairy specifically checks to see if you have Tempered, so you can't upgrade your Fighter Sword into Tempered Sword. I guess they would. Makes a little bit of sense because casually you could get to Fat Fairy with just Master, whereas the developers never thought you could get to the dwarves with just Fighter Sword or worse. So we can't pick up Gold Sword. If we could, getting Silvers and Gold Sword would actually be the fastest because again we just need something Master above to actually complete the game.
Yeah, and bringing the sword to the smiths actually takes up a solid chunk of time.
Yeah, that whole back and forth and everything takes a while to do.
It's a good modifier coming up here, which can either be really fast or really annoying. It's still poke right there.
And then he gets the poke dash finish off. Very nice. Yeah, that was a really good fight. Just the moth pattern plus the conveyor pattern can kind of make a quick fight kind of impossible. Osse definitely basically did as good as you could have possibly done there.
Yeah, two really good fights.
Yeah, again, another fight where Moth ended up. That's kind of the best you could possibly do. So that is really good. It is possible to kill Moth without a single one of those spikes spawning. We have a little bit of a joke, but I mean it is actually a way to measure the fight. We see how good your Moth is by how many spikes that have come out. So like 2 spikes coming out would be like 8 out of 10, or I think Osse had a 7 out of 10. So those are both really good. The fight is, the longer it goes on, the more spikes that are going to spawn. So it's one of those like negative or positive feedback loops, just in the bad way. That like the longer it goes, it's going to go even longer because there's so many spikes on screen. And Moth doesn't take damage if you hit him into the spikes, so it just turns into a nightmare.
Yeah, the longer the fight goes, the harder it becomes. So here we have the second time we do the clip into Hera, and then this time we immediately just leave. It's just the fastest way to get to the top of the mountain. and now we go get Ether, and from there on out we actually go to the east side of the mountain and then clip down a mountain to go into the Zora area, which will kind of look weird graphically because the game doesn't load the proper graphics for the area.
Yeah, it's still using the tile set. Since we don't hit a proper screen transition, the game sets like palettes and tile sets on screen transitions, on certain screen transitions. So since we're going through one it didn't expect us to, it never changes the memory values. So we're still using all the Death Mountain assets. But this is kind of like our main shopping trip in this run. NMG has kind of like a couple like little tiny shopping trips, but we're able to kind of like just pull the main one just into this little segment. So it has nothing to do. We're going to Desert Palace right now. We don't need any of these items for desert. It's just like there's a bunch of dungeons that are just kind of like on the bottom half of the screen. We have Mire and Desert right on top of each other in the southwest. Swamp is in the south in the middle, and then Ice Palace is on the southeast. So we're basically just going to try to complete the entire loop on the bottom, and that'll be pretty much all the dungeons except for Turtle Rock, Aga Tower, and Gan's Tower. So we just need all the stuff because we need it mostly we need the Ether to get into Mire, and we need the flippers for Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and I guess the shopping trip becomes a little small gauntlet of dungeons. Well, yeah, I guess in Mire we also have a little small trip, but
yeah,
otherwise
we're almost done with all the items we need. We basically need the hookshot from Mire, and then the only other like overworld item we still need is we need to grab the ice rod, and we get that after Ice Palace because it's just the closest we ever get to it. You may notice we don't have the flute. We never pick it up in this category. Flute is a pretty fast way to travel the overworld, but since this category allows saving and quitting, and plus we pretty much can go where we want with these glitches. The flute just isn't worth it to pick up. We can just kind of completely skip it. We never need it. We never get it. So Ice Rod's kind of an annoying spot off by its side. So Ice Palace is the closest we ever get to it. It is also possible we could actually get it like kind of in the desert time frame, because you can actually wrap the entire overworld going left and you'd end up on the right-hand side. But that method's just a little too slow and it doesn't really route in well with the rest of the stuff we want to do. So we just get it when we're over by Ice Palace.
And there's a nice fancy way to get it as well, which we'll be seeing like in a couple of dungeons. So yeah, here we clip into the Mire area and then mirror to actually get into the desert proper.
Yeah,
and after that we will just go back into the portal to get to Mire.
Yeah, that fluteless Mire again is one of the few like really required tricks in this, because there's really, besides getting that flute, there's no way. The game expects you to have the flute to get into Mire. It's the only way in there. It's a cordon off area. So you'd have to get the flute to skip that. Doing a teleport is not that difficult, so it's definitely one of the tricks that's kind of like, it's not even really hard required because you could just get the flute, but it's not too difficult to pick up. It's definitely one of the main ones that you need for this route.
Yeah, for sure.
This is one of those dungeons. So we could actually get if we somehow manage to figure out a way to get the cave state big key. The cave state big key actually gives you the big key for desert, and it would allow us to skip basically like the second half of this dungeon. The only problem is the only way we can really get that is getting it in the pod cave state, and we need the pod big key basically to get to Helma. It's really hard to get into Helma without any like even more major glitches. But I just wish we could do that because it would make like some of the stuff even more cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just being able to go straight to the back of desert and
yeah,
going
and we could
to the top of Heron.
Yeah, we could skip Tile Room. The dream.
So despite Doom's death, he's actually on like 20-30 seconds behind at this point. So if he keeps playing like this, like aside from that, he's been on a real solid tear.
Yeah, like that blind death isn't too bad. He died on blind, Boyne. The death, basically, if you take Doom's PB and add in that death, you kind of sort of get Osse's PB. So these guys are going to be real close. And Osse's, he got a gold Hera. He's only plus 1.5 seconds over his PB right now. It looked like he had a pretty clean Desert Palace too. Desert is, again, when you're first learning it, it's not one that you're really scared of. It's not really going to kill you. There's like one overall that's pretty nasty. But like you just lose so much time here. It's the pace killer. It's really difficult to do properly. As Doom is showing off with this this Lamo RNG he's getting.
Yeah, both of them have free cycles actually. So.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Osse didn't lose too much. It looks like he's plus like 5 now, so he only lost a little bit of time.
Yeah, it would have been a really solid desert for his time at that point if he had a 1 cycle. But sometimes Lamo just doesn't get you there.
Yeah, so we're going into Mire. Mire would be completely normal. There's nothing really we do in Mire. The thing is, we can actually get the hookshot in Misery Mire by, again, kind of traversing that underworld map. And anyone who's done Swamp knows going all the way over to the left to get the big key, and to come back to get the hookshot is really long and annoying. So we can actually clip into Hera from this Mire segment, and then from Hera we can clip into Swamp. And again, because the game is, we never transition our dungeon ID. When we're in those swamp rooms, we can use the Mire items. Mire is really convenient because it has a bunch of extra keys. Because this dungeon was supposed to be kind of like laid out as like a maze for the player to kind of figure out. And so there's a lot of like unnecessary rooms. So they give you more keys than you need. So we can abuse that fact by stealing a small key here. We can use that in Swamp, and then we can use the Mire big key to get the hookshot. And that ends up being, it's like 40 seconds faster than doing all of the Swamp stuff. It's not that much faster because we do have to do a bunch of extra stuff in Mire to get that. And then you may be asking, like, well, why didn't we just do it when we were in Hera? Because you'll see us go into Hera and then go into Swamp, because Hera and Swamp are right next to each other. The reason is there's a small key in Swamp, a small or a locked door in Swamp we need to get by. Hera does not have an extra small key, but Mire does. Again, if we could use that cave state key, we could actually steal the Hera small key and get the hookshot in Hera. So we just need some way of getting to Helma, and this route would change drastically because of all that stuff, and it would be really cool.
So, yeah, here we have a small cutscene from the torches, and we're actually going to see 2 attempts at one of the newer things in the run, I guess, that has been widely accepted. So first we assumed that this was going to be like not very RTA viable, but then Zero Rush managed to find a setup that actually is really consistent.
Yeah, it's definitely been known about for a while that you can just bomb jump here. Osse did not get it. I think I'm a little behind the strat. I'm not sure if Doom got it yet. But yeah, it's just like, unlike the Hera, or not the Hera, excuse me, the pod hammer jump. The pod hammer jump like saves like 40 seconds over like doing all this stuff. This is just a minor routing efficiency. This only saves like 6 or 8 seconds. It's not a lot, so you have to be pretty quick at it. So like we knew about it for a while, but like no one really figured out like a decent setup for it. And like people would try it a couple times and go like, no, this really sucks, I don't want to do it. And then Zero just kind of sat down. It's not even that so much he found better setups, he just kind of like proved that it could be done. And then that kind of once the first man is through the wall where you can see it's doable, then everyone else kind of like sits down and practices a little bit harder, and you go like, yeah, this isn't that bad. So it kind of turns out being like that citrus clip I talked about in the beginning, where it only saves a little bit. Once you can kind of get to the point where you're not like losing time with it, it's kind of a good time to try to put it into the route. So there's only a handful of people who go for it right now, probably less than 10. So the fact that 2 of them are doing it right now is pretty impressive.
Yeah, Osse has been going for some pretty rad stuff compared to his PB.
Osse plays this game to do the dumb stuff, so I fully expected him to go for that.
A nice jet swing right there.
Osse is also the one who made the Moldorm bounce kind of actually viable to do.
Oh right, yeah.
He because we were slashing him for a while, and then like Osse started looking at it, and he was like, "Why don't we just spin?" You know, everyone was like, "Oh yeah," and it turns out it just makes the setup like a lot easier. And with that setup, it becomes pretty viable to do it if you're going to do the. That's just the problem is the route that's useful in. It's in the any percent version of this glitch rule set. There's a bunch of other dumb stuff you have to do even before you get there. So it turns out that whole Moldorm bounce thing is not even the run killer anymore. It's everything else.
Yeah, that category is pretty crazy. Let's see if we see a hover here from Doom. Oh,
yeah. I just really we got Lynx W in the chat now. I'm sorry, that was important enough for me to mention it.
Alright, so we're going to be setting up a glitch here, which we call Spooky Action Glitch, which allows us to hit a switch that is loaded in another room and just saves us a couple of seconds. Usually we would be blowing up a wall, going into another room, then hitting the switch, then going back. But yeah, we're able to preserve a certain value, and that like dislocates the lingering hitbox from a fire rod shot.
Yeah, this is probably a little bit less well-known setup. Normally the spooky setup with the flute, when you flute in, you can walk to a certain place, and the duck is actually what's setting the variable on that. We can't do that. We can just the way we have to do is voiding out this block, but it gives us a much different variable. So we have to do this kind of awkward fire rod dash. We need to be able to move up quickly to actually load the sprite onto the screen because it's in the next room over. I think this was actually the original spooky before the flute setup was found.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that it kind of found like second life in this category. You can't actually hit the first switch, but because of all of the mirroring and stuff we did, we actually don't need to. So it works out perfectly. Where the only switch we need to hit is the one that we can hit. Us having a pretty good Vitreous. Unfortunately, he gets the one cycle. Let's see if Doom can get the 0 cycle here.
Ooh, that was pretty close.
Yeah, it was really close with those slashes.
Yeah, but he's getting a lot of time here in this mire. Like being able to make the bomb jump, having a cleaner viddy. It's a lot of small stuff that just adds up. And
yeah,
it'll be a really close race going into like the latter end of the run, probably.
Yeah, I can't like Doom definitely has really just like top tier execution. Obviously, he's one of the top players. You can't even necessarily say like Doom's execution is that much better than Osse's, because like Osse's just got a ton of like raw skill and talent. But you just spend so much time like playing like the randos, like his like knowledge of each individual room, like the optimal strats for each individual room, is just not like at the same level as Doom's. So that's probably most of where the quote unquote like execution time loss is going to come from. Just Doom just knowing like exactly what to do in every single room and being very well practiced at it. That was a gold mire from Doom too. Dang.
Yeah, that's really good gold.
Yeah, what is that? Is 710?
Yeah,
looks like. Yeah.
Trust me, I would take a 710 every single round.
Yeah, no, I definitely would.
That's above. Got the Mire escape clip right there, which like isn't hard required. Like even like not like how do you say that?
It's
like, you could just save and quit out of Mire and then go to Swamp like the normal way.
Yeah, as important as being able to clip into Mire is, clipping out isn't actually that important. It only saves about 12 seconds. So if you're not like, it's not hard to do a teleport, but they're very difficult to do fast. So if you're new and you're not fast to teleport, you could definitely just save and quit and come back out here. And once you get a little bit better at teleports, maybe look at putting it in. There's actually like 3 or 4 ways of actually getting out. Of there. They both did I think they both did the fast way. I know at least Doomtap did.
Ossie had a weird one. It wasn't like the big hop thing.
Oh,
like,
did he did the
2
Brahmin.
small hops and a dash down? Is that the Brahmin one?
That's the Brahmin one. Yeah, the big hop one is kind of effectively dead because of Brahmin found that new one. So anyway, So Doom did the faster version. The problem with that is there's a Zora that's going to snipe you if you're kind of hanging out in that area. So you have to be able to beat that for that one to be fast. So there's the other ones are just basically avoid that. They're a little bit slower, but they're safe. You're not going to lose time from them. If you end up getting sniped by that Zora, it becomes hell. Anyways, we're going to see another new glitch here from another Yuzahara special called Diver Down, or Holy Diver. Some of us are trying to rebrand it. Basically, we're just using the Smario block, and there's some wonkiness when you put it right there. A couple of one-frame buffers, and we can just hop right through. And because it has something to do with like the way the game handles layers, that since it doesn't actually transition us on layers properly, and we can just, it kind of thinks we're on the ground, and we can just dash right out the door. So it saves pushing the statue and a cutscene. It saves about like 6 or 7 seconds overall. But both had very nice versions of it.
Yeah, wow, they're in the same room at this point. This is actually crazy.
Yeah.
So you're going to try to get a zero cycle in August?
No, Osse unfortunately turning around. Doom checking the map, making sure he knows where he is. Okay, if Doom was going to get the map zero cycle, I was going to be pretty excited. Yeah, the zero cycle Argus is probably the hardest quick kill. Actually, not probably, definitely the quickest hard kill in this game. It is really difficult. It kind of just looks like you like, oh, just do a hook dash and just kind of like mash it and you get it. There's not only is it's like technically demanding just to get the inputs right. There's a timing to it, and there's also like a strategy on how to pull the puffs. So it's really difficult to pull it all together. You also may have noticed that there is like a fire rod kill that you'll see on Argus in the NMG category. We don't do that here because we actually want to be on hookshot, and it turns out just menuing back and forth takes up too much time, so it's just better for us to stay on hookshot here.
Turns out menuing is slow.
Yeah, each time you menu it takes about a second, so there's like a lot of strats we could do in this game that would like be like little frame savers by using like certain items, like using the hookshot, that we just can't do because the menuing kills it. It's fine whenever like someone puts like, oh, look at this like hot new room time, and then like the first response is always like, yeah, but what about the menu? And like, oh right, it just doesn't work.
All right, so up comes the Ice Battle's mirror route. Hey, can you explain that?
I can explain how to do it. I'm not entirely sure about the technical details. Basically, mirroring on the same frame as you transit. Pretty much, this game really hates it when you do something the same frame as you're transitioning. And when we do it here, it kind of puts us on a weird state, and then we hit this transition back to the right. A lot of these transitions like cause hard locks, but for whatever reason, that one puts us just basically right in the little area where we want to be for Ice Palace. So that skips us having to. Otherwise, we'd have to like warp back to the light world and then come back to the dark world. It only saves about 6 seconds. It looks really cool. There's also a hard lock possibility with it. Osse, what are you doing?
Is that just swag, or
that is Osse 100% being Osse.
Right.
I'm sure that's something he can nail first try, and he just keeps going for it. Yeah, but anyways, it puts us in Ice Palace. We do another bomb clip to skip a bunch of rooms, and this is another new trick that again user just found called Icebreaker. Basically, the block does some weird things, and it basically allows us to trick the game to think we're still in the door. And since you can walk through doors, the game goes like, okay, well you can walk through this other solid object, and just kind of lets us through. So completely changed the kind of route in Ice Palace here. Again, it doesn't save that much. It only saves about 6 seconds again. But it does get rid of some annoying rooms, like the conveyor room. The conveyor room is just hell, so I'm kind of glad to see it go.
Yeah, it reduces a lot of the RNG out of this dungeon.
And finally, we got to optimize that tongue statue room. Shoutouts to 258. Or whatever. Possible. Yeah. I legit spent like 2 hours in that room. I was like, oh, we got to optimize this room now. And then like I was like, oh, we can do like the same like tongue grab thing. 458. Thank you, Kozer. I'm sorry. I know.
And you shame me about mimicking.
Look, I know the 58 part. That's the important part. Yeah, okay, but that room is in a good category. Your room was in a silly category. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, nice double poke, cold stare. And there's a couple of different ways to defeat this boss quickly. There's like 6/, 1 poke, double poke. Like this is the fastest way, but also really tight. Do have to do a couple of re-slashes, but solid fights from both. And yeah, we're still about neck and neck. Doom had a little bit of issues with Icebreaker.
I think that's he's currently consulting the tutorial. That's a nice one.
Sometimes you just got to learn something on the fly.
So anyways, we just need to, so we're kind of done with that big loop on the bottom now. We just need to pop over, grab that ice rod, and then we're going to be heading into Turtle Rock. Again, we never got Quake. We don't need it. We're actually we're gonna do another one of those mirror wrap things, and we're gonna actually go in the back door of Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock, again, probably the dungeon that kind of just changes. It's not even changes from glitches inside Turtle Rock. It changes because we're entering through the back. But like all the things that are terrifying about Turtle Rock normally, like the overroll, the dead rocks, the chain chomps, having to do pokies too, we don't have to do any of that here. It becomes a pretty straightforward dungeon. I wouldn't necessarily say easy. It's easy to like survive as opposed to like RMG. There's a bunch of little tricks that you have to do that can lose a bunch of time. Like this swim. This swim, I swear to God, is the hardest thing in this game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But we are getting the ice rod. Both of them are doing this little broken camera method. This saves about 2 seconds. You could just run around and pick it up like you would normally. This isn't that much faster, but it is a time save. So most of the top players are going for it now.
Yeah. So now for the first time, we're actually going into her and going back out. And then we'll be going into the Dark World portal. Spin speed issues, hardest trick in the game. And they're actually tied now. Then we'll be clipping into the wall, teleporting down, and then we have to do a couple of half circles in order to move us through the wall, basically. Then we're gonna be put into a spot here, try to do the mirror wrap. Transition right, and then we can like quick hop up, and it makes us land right on Laser Bridge. So now we're going to backtrack our way, like through Turtle Rock, try to get the big key, and then we'll be making our way over to Trinex.
Better see a poke dash. That's all I'm saying.
You and your strats. I guess if anyone would do it, it would be these two.
Yeah,
right?
Well, Osse, definitely. Doom doesn't necessarily go for the wild stuff. Osse, if something is weird and wacky, Osse will go for it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he bomb jumps Moldorm just for the lulz. Maybe if he was behind, he might see that this is a close race and not go for that. But
oh man, neither of them saves the menu.
oh, what's the saving the menu thing?
So if you save the menu and leave it for later, if you get the right side pokey right here and you get bunny beamed, if you wait until the end of the pipe before the big key and then menu, the unbunny
That's right,
animation will happen during the menu.
Yeah. How much does that save? It's actually probably saves a good bit, doesn't it? Like
17 frames.
17 frames. I mean, my poke dash only saves 17 frames, so you know I can't.
Yeah, you don't get to talk.
It saves 17 frames, maybe, depending on what your health is like. Now, Osse doing a little bit different version of that strat. It's interesting. Usually, you see players walk up a little bit higher, but yeah, that is because we mirror the pegs are in a spot we're not used to. We have to do a little bit different version of that room. It's a hard strat. You can just flip the switches back to where you're more comfortable with them and just go for that. No, Osse, I'm having talking to this kid afterwards.
Disappointed dad.
I am very disappointed. It's okay. I got a couple hours to school him. both having very clean Trinexes, both Trinexes exploding at the same time. It looks like we are a head one neck explosion away from each other on this race.
Yeah, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, and this is where again, like Doom just top play. I mean, this I wouldn't have called a blind death being the reason it was this close. But like if you're gonna die to a boss, blind or moth are probably the two to do it on. That you're not gonna lose that much time. But you know, Osse is definitely a good enough competitor that even someone as good as Doom can't really afford that and still just expect to roll to a win. If anything, I would say Doom does have the advantage right here. GT is a very, very complicated segment. Doom is very good at it. Osse is good at it too, but I expect Doom to probably catch up this little bit of time save. This game does end with all the RNG at the end though, so unless something goes really bad, this is probably going to be an RNG race. Because it like just one blue ball is 6 seconds. So Doom's going to have to put up a significant amount of time here to not have to rely on very good RNG to win.
Gonna see what different methods they use to get into GT here. There's a really fast way you can use. Oh. Okay, Osse. Okay.
That's a little different. That is higher than I've seen. I didn't even know you can do it up there. As Osse just knows so much weird stuff about this game. Like again, from his randomizer experience, he's one of those guys that just loves poking like the corners of the game and seeing what he can do. I'm happy he's running this game. If he actually sits down and gets pretty serious about this, I'm sure he'll find some pretty crazy stuff that we haven't even thought about. The last guy that really, like we were mentioning Zero before, when Zero really picked up this category, he found 4 or 5 new things. There's like a new Zora DMD that not too many people. I think it's just like me and him that go for it, even though it's faster. So
the dash buffer one.
The what?
The dash buffer one.
Yeah, the dash buffer one. Like if you do it perfectly, it's like 40 frames faster. And like when I was trying it, like I pretty much never was slower than even a very good spin clip. That's go pretty bad. But you have to be pretty quick on the dash buffers.
Yeah, the problem for me is always just that I'm not good enough at it, and I just charge the spin, so it won't save time.
Yeah. Anyways, about that, we didn't really talk about the GT entry thing. So we actually get, because we never opened Turtle Rock properly. You actually are stuck in the Turtle Rock head after the dungeon, and there's no way out of it. So we have to save and quit. So basically, instead of walking all over Death Mountain and opening that cutscene, we can just clip into GT. We could have done this at any point. You could do this really early on the game. I guess we never really mentioned this, but the reason this is the all dungeons category is if we just did like, there isn't just an any percent of this category. It's like 26 minutes long for the world record, something like that. But like we kind of wanted to have something that like had these glitches, but still had like more of like an RMG feel where you're doing the entire game. So just by rule that we just require all the dungeons to be done. So we don't need those 8 crystals to actually get into GT. 7, yes. Excuse me. We don't need those crystals to actually get in GT. We could have done it at any time. The only reason we're doing it is because this category says you have to do all the dungeons. So that's why we did all that. But we could have come into GT at any time. It's just, again, just for routing purposes, because GT is going to, after GT, it's going to put you on top of the pyramid, and then we're actually going to go do Aga Tower after that. It just for routing purposes, it just still makes sense to do GT at the end. But if things were laid out a little bit differently, like it would be completely possible we would do GT earlier on.
Which would have made it for a very interesting category. Also really hard. This is like the hardest dungeon execution wise. Like
yeah.
Not glitches wise or tricks, but just the sheer amount of rooms that have RNG that you need to react to, and the amount of kill rooms, and it's really the appropriate ends to the game, I would say.
Yeah, GT is one of the things that is like like when we decide if something is going to be allowed in RMG, kind of preserving GT is one of the main things we look at, because it's kind of this big like execution fest at the end. Especially for like the any percent category, like the entire point of that category is basically like doing a very low equipment GT. So anything that completely breaks GT and allows you to just kind of skip right to the top is probably going to be banned. We did find misslotting a couple months ago, and for a little bit we were thinking about allowing into this. That would have allowed us to skip pretty much all of GT. Would have cut like 4 minutes off of the world record or something crazy like that. But we ended up not allowing it.
Yeah, so Doom taking a small lead after the gauntlet. I mean, like, most of these rooms are pretty straightforward. There's some bad stuff that can happen, like if you get the despawn glitch, which is one of the frame perfect things that you don't want to happen.
Yeah, sometimes being frame perfect is bad. Again, the despawn is one of those, something happens the same frame you're transitioning and the game gets very sad.
Yeah, after that bonk, I would have waited too.
Yeah, well, it looks like I'm looking at Osse's splits right here. It looks like, oh no, that's his average. Okay, I was thinking his PB GT is a 727. I don't think he's got his gold listed. But
No.
This has been a pretty good GT. I expect him to be saving some time on this split. Like, I mean, I'm just based on like Doom has a very good GT. I haven't really seen Doom lose too much time, so I think this should be less than. Yeah, this is Doom killed Moldorm sub 6, which is very good. And Osse's only a little bit behind him.
Yeah, entering it was like 716 pace.
Yeah, as long as Osse doesn't. As long as Osse doesn't have a AGA party, he should be saving some time here.
No Moldorm balance, by the way.
Well, it's close. I said it's a close race, so he's not going to be going for it. I wouldn't have been too terribly surprised if he hovered. It does turn out that the hover in this category is less valuable. One of the time saves of hovering in NMG is you save a menu, but we still need to do AGA Tower because for some reason decided it's a dungeon, so we still have to do blue balls, which is very annoying. So you have to menu to mirror to go to AGA Tower. So the menu save that Doom. Jesus. Doom showing his displeasure with AGA, it appears to be.
Also making up 6 seconds there, 3 cycle versus a 4 cycle. AGA 2 is a really hard boss to get down well.
Yeah, it is absolutely possible. Yeah, it looks like Osse is saving a bunch of time here. So yeah, this is just really convenient routing for us that we abuse the fact that after GT it puts us on top of the pyramid. It turns out AGA Tower is just right on the light world side of the pyramid. So we just come in right here, and then after we defeat AGA 1, it's going to put us back on the pyramid. It also gives us a free health refill and magic refill before going into Ganon, which is nice. So there's some magic routing stuff that we do that you don't have. Where we skip like the big magic at the end of GT because we don't need it because we're going to get that free refill. But we're kind of ending the actual like execution part of this category. Like 2 of the biggest RNG parts of this game are the AGA blue balls and then warps from Ganon. They're both 50-50s. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just something you have to sit and happen. So it. Some people prefer the blue balls to be, again, as always, at the end, obviously, but the blue balls being at the end, some people prefer it because like you don't have to like, oh, I have like a 0 blue ball run and then like you're worried about like throwing it away. But like on the other hand, it's like you kind of you're playing this game for about like an hour, 9 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, and if like it doesn't matter how far you're ahead or how good your run was, all you've basically done is just bought yourself a lottery ticket to see if you can PB. So, and then you just have to sit there and and wait for it to happen. There's obviously execution on Ganon, but once you get pretty good at this game, that's usually pretty straightforward. Sorry, Ari.
Yeah. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Osse had a really good, really.
Yeah,
good
these guys are right on top. This is just Doom is barely going to win the non-RNG category by less than
2
a second.
seconds.
Like that, maybe. Like, we'll see. We'll do like when they actually do the room turn. This is absolute. This is as close as it could be. So it's just. I guess good luck to both. 109.07, 109.09. Yeah, 2 seconds. We'll separate these two. That's less than one blue ball. Blue ball is 6 seconds. A warp is like 3 seconds. So just even one blue ball, one warp, is going to be the difference here. As long as both, get the 1-on-1 and they don't miss a spin, which could happen. I mean, hell, 2 seconds is even like there's minor RNG on Ganon where it's like if you get like a blue Ganon or like if you can get a double like pre-torch. Like this is just so in the noise. Like this isn't effectively a tie.
Oh, Osse got 0 in the first cycle.
Oh no. Well, not oh no. Is Osse gonna get the 0? Right here is we.
Oh
No, that's.
Debate it.
I'm happy for the excitement of the run.
Yeah.
Okay.
One though, that's
Osse's,
really good.
Yeah, so it's not over. Again, there is still warps. I have had a 3 blue ball aga where I lost more time on Ganon warps, so we can still have Osse can still have a warp fest, and Doom will retake the lead here.
Yeah, Doom has been getting really unlucky though. Like 3 blue balls in the second cycle. Yeah. Okay, so 4. So that's 24 seconds difference, and that's a lot of warps.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
So Osse's running against a 152 Ganon. That's like 3 or 4 warps depending on his phase 4. So he could actually still PP here.
Yeah, he is effectively tied. He's plus 0.1 over his PB right now. So it's 12 hits on both these first cycles. Osse gets the first. That is a way of doing it. It is a lot. Again, it is a lot less nerve-wracking here than it would be in NMG because you have full. You can face tank a bat. In fact, some people find the beams so annoying because you're so unused to having them on Ganon that people will literally kiss Ganon just to get rid of them because you have so much health.
Guilty as charged.
Is Osse gonna get? Okay, there's 1.
Yeah, he's on 3 now. 4.
3.
Yeah, of course. It's always the last hit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's not going to be quite enough for Doom to catch up here. Especially because Doom is also having a blue warp fest. Holy hell, Doom! Oh my God! Stop! He's already dead.
I just want to hit Ganon.
Oh my God! This is a me RNG right here. So remember I was saying you can get 4 blue balls and lose more time to Ganon warps as a way of saying that Doom might catch up. Well, unfortunately, Doom got both of those. So
yeah.
I mean, this is this kind of stuff like blue balls and Ganon warps. This would be something the RNG that we'd have to deal with in any tournament. It's just so starkly obvious in this one because they happen right on top of each other and right at the end.
Oh, nice escape shot.
That we can see the effects of it. Yeah, looks like Osse is going to be finishing here shortly. He's not going to PB. He missed it. He's going to miss it by a little over 10 seconds. But still a very good run. Being only plus 10 seconds in a tourney match is very, very good.
Especially with the added pressure and all. There, Doom will be finishing it off as well.
Yeah, it looks like Osse finished with an official SRL time of 12 of 56. I guess he forgot. He's a little bit different than his split say 12:49. and Doom finishing with a 13-20, and his splits show a 13-18. But yeah, I mean, Doom played a very good match. That was completely just blue balls and the one death. He lost so much time in RNG. He lost looks like 30-ish seconds over his PD on just an RNG. And then the death was the big chunk of that, probably about like a minute and a half.
Like a minute, yeah. It was it's so rough. Again, it's a really volatile category, and you really need to be on top of your game. And it's just kind of a shame that it's blind, right? Because it's like it's scripted.
Yeah, blind is
always.
Blind is not the one I would have guessed that would have happened. I mean, you got the Helma. Osse came really, really close to dying on Helma. I would not have guessed this match would have come down to blind of all things.
Yeah, but it was a super tight race all the way from Meyer all the way to Aga. So it was really fun to watch. Really fun to see like differences in strats.
Yeah, and we are now joined by Osse. GG, Osse, on your win.
Thanks, GG.
GG's.
So you gave us the very early heart attack on that Helma. I don't know how you lived. That was something.
No, that's just every run.
Yeah, it is definitely every run in this category.
I'm afraid of Helma every time I try to PB in this. But yeah, I made it through Helma. Lately, I've been like not missing tricks. That was the last jump in my PB, was like first trying the tricks. And so now I'm just getting steady at that. And so I'm pretty close to my PB in most runs.
Yeah, being only plus 10. I mean, you got pretty good RNG here at the end. You saved you saved some time, then you lost some back to Ganon at the end. I didn't see if you missed a spin or something. But
yeah, I miscounted because I got the blue Ganon.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's just Ganon's got like a bunch of little details that you gotta keep straight. But yeah, I mean, this was Doom had the little early lead. Basically, you were able to take the lead after Doom's unfortunate blind death there, and pretty much hold on to like the narrow lead until GT, where he was able to pass you a little bit. But it came down to like you guys entered Aga. He was 2 seconds ahead of you, exactly, which is, again, that's just like in the noise. And again, it's not even a warp, but that's just like, again, like getting blue Ganon or something would have been the difference. And unfortunately, he got like 4 blue balls and he got just a billion warps on the first cycle, which is pretty much the entire gap here.
Yeah, really close race following his death. I kind of needed him to die or make a mistake somewhere, because 2-minute PB difference is hard to overcome without that.
Yeah, that's really hard to do in a game like Link to the Past. But I mean, you playing so like even to your PB definitely helps. Like, just means that you can do your own thing and just hope that something bad happens in a way. You don't really have to play like above your skill level necessarily. Yeah, really nice run. Like getting a couple of golds as well. That's some good showing.
Yeah, we were talking, about you this entire match and talking about Doom too, about like how you like to do all the crazy, silly stuff. So we're gonna have a little talk about you not doing poke dash trinex, because that's gonna need to happen here soon.
Yeah, I just haven't put in the time to learn that one. But there are a couple of things that I cut out because it's a tournament match.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. This is the hill I like to die on for some reason. I don't know why I picked this one, but it's the one I've chosen.
Like
that's right, like I am strat saving.
The clip up to Hera is one that I feel bad about not going for it, but I just can't get it every time.
Yeah, it is like it's weird because it's not that much. It's like 2 seconds faster, which isn't nothing, but it's the fact that you do it 3 times. It turns out to be a pretty big chunk of change once you can start getting it pretty consistently. So definitely. I mean, something to look. I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about this category is there's so much like just little stuff that you can keep just kind of like adding on. I mean, we didn't even, again, we were sort of talking about during the run where it was like there's just all this little stuff we keep like finding. Like there's the hover admire you can do now on Laser Bridge to save beams. Like again, it's like a frame saver, but it's just like this little tiny strat that like no one ever really thought of. I know Andy went for it in his race. I didn't get it, but like there's just so many little stuff like that if you really want to push this category. I think that's more or less it. Harry, unless you've got something else to say. And Doom isn't joining us. He does have some internet issues. He is in the chat. If he's sort of mentioned what he was talking about with his main problem was his blind fight, unfortunately. I'm glad that you remembered to mirror, though. We were trying to remind you to do that. I don't know if you remembered before we saw it.
Yeah, do you have any of the other matches scheduled yet?
I don't know.
Yeah, I forget who else is in your. Oh, you have. I know Trinex is in your group as the 3 seed, which should also be a pretty interesting match. Trinex is another. Again, plays a lot of rando. Just got a sub 90 NMG now. Just picking up this category for the tournament. So he's also someone who can lay down a really big PB. So that'll be an interesting match to see. And then I forget who else is in your. We do actually have another match today on ZSR. I think it's on ZSR 1 at 7 o'clock tonight. It's M Closer versus Matt7898. I believe those are the numbers on his name. That should be another really good one. Closer has got a 111 relatively recently, just before the tournament started. And again, Matt is another player who's kind of another like up and comer big random player. He's got a pretty good NMG time now, and he's been dropping his AD PB by a lot. So that one's gonna be very similar to this one, where Kozer definitely has probably an advantage going to that. But as you guys can see, it does not take a lot for these races to flip. So I think it's kind of the fun part about this tournament is that there's going to be some upsets and everything. It kind of feels bad when they happen, but it makes it for good viewing.
Yeah, so it was definitely exciting.
But yeah, so if you guys are around, check that out. There's or you feel free to join the AD Discord. We have we have all the entire schedule, even the stuff that's not being restreamed is on the ZSR schedule. There's like 7 matches going on today, so a lot of content going on today. The tournament's really starting to spin up. I think a lot of people didn't schedule matches like that first week because they were trying to get a little bit more practice. So there's 2 weeks left for players to get all their matches in. They just have to do 3 each. So there's going to be a lot coming up here shortly, and as well as the amount of restreams we have on ZSR should be ramping up as well.
Lots of dungeons.
Yep. So I think that's it for us.
Yeah, I don't really have anything actually. It was fun. Thanks for coming.
All right, 1 moment. Alright, thank you all for watching. As Apathy Duck said, we do have another race on ZeldaSpeedRuns tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also on ZSR, we have an Ocarina of Time Standard Tournament Randall race happening right now, which we're going to be rating in just a moment. And then later on, we have a Zelda 2 randomizer Max Randall tournament. That's happening later on today. Or I think it might have just happened. So in any case, thank you all for watching. I'm going to be rating ZSR 1 now. Have a great night.